So it was strange because I obviously saw I was on a webinar and you were on a webinar, and
Was it the Terry Rice one?
no, I don't think it was. It was one with GA, I think. It was like the G one that GA were running, and it was something to do with social media. You'd be a good person
Oh,
to talk to.
oh, cool.
Yeah. So basically, I just want you to tell me a bit about yourself. And obviously, you're a nutritional therapist,
Mm.
and you focus on the relationship between your gut or the gut and the mind and your mental health and the digestive system and how it plays a part on our well-being. And that's something I found really interesting because I really believe that that's true. So when I read about what you did, I was like, yeah, this is so exciting. I want to hear, yeah, all about it, really. So why
Yeah,
did you
so
decide to get...
I do, yeah, I specialize in sort of mood disorders, anxiety, IBS, sleep repair, that kind of thing. Mostly because it's sort of intrinsic to what I know and what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Because it's part of my backstory. I mean, that's what I have struggled with in the past, and that's what I decided to specialize in because it's really relevant to me. It's the devil I know, and it's
Yeah.
something that is like it's rewarding for me to help people with an issue that I understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really what I do. I specialize. I do one-to-ones with people suffering from issues like even fertility issues with like polycystic ovary syndrome, period problems,
Amazing.
those sorts of things, as well as the depression and mood issues. Yeah.
Cool. So you kind of work out the relationship between their diet and other aspects of their life, which maybe they're having sort of difficulty with. So, for example, if somebody was, I don't know, suffering with feeling like depressed or something like that, would you then work out a diet plan or work with them on a nutritional basis to try and help them overcome that, or food groups which could help support that to make them
Yeah,
better? Is that
absolutely.
how it
Yeah.
works?
So it's that kind of thing. I mean, obviously it's personalized as a general framework for each kind
Yeah.
of scenario, as that's part of my training. But obviously every person's different and everyone has different preferences, they have different goals. And I'm working with a couple of people at the moment who want to sort out, their weight management problems, and so it ties into so many different things. So anxiety and gut issues.
Yeah.
It's sort of a way into a lot of different avenues when it comes to health, and quite a lot of people we're used to taking on stress. We think we kind of accept it as a way of life, a way of sort of being productive and getting ahead and that kind of thing, and we
Yeah.
think it's a necessary evil, but it doesn't have to be that way. So yeah, I get a lot out of helping people and helping them become more expressive in themselves and becoming more confident. And actually it has quite a knock-on effect on their relationships as well. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's quite a profound change when you change your diet. I mean, it sounds like such a simple thing to change your
No,
diet.
it's not. I don't
You
think
know?
it's actually quite hard, I think, like, for a lot of people. So, yeah, but I can
Yeah.
imagine that would have such an impact because I've kind of gone through it myself where I've really had to change my diet for medical reasons. And I had to really be strict with what I was eating and putting into my body because I was kind of going on a bit of a detox after I had some treatment done in hospital, and it was like I was in hospital for a while and I've had lots of medication pumped into my body, and that's something that doesn't really... I'm not really somebody who likes taking medication. I take more of a holistic approach, which is, again, not everyone's going to like that, but that's just how I
Yeah.
am. So for me, after I came out of hospital, I really wanted to kind of do like work with a nutritionist, which I did, to really like flush out and to kind of just get everything back to normal. But it was, it had a huge impact. It massively made me feel different in every way.
Yeah.
I think if I didn't do that, I think my recovery process of coming out of hospital would have been really different.
a lot of people come around to the idea that, you know, diet's probably it's probably not the only answer. It's not
Mm.
as simple as that, but it's definitely a big pillar as part of a range of things that you could combat. I mean, obviously it's diet, it's sleep, it's relaxation, it's, you know, mindset,
Yeah.
hobbies, even exercise, you know, all these things come into play. But I've always thought that diet has a massive impact. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you start to realize that diet was so important? Like, what made you
Oh
want to
god,
go down this route?
it's a long story.
Oh,
So
okay. You
yeah, I
don't have
mean,
to share it if you don't want to.
no, it's fine. I guess it would start when I was about well, I was diagnosed with IBS when I was about 12.
Right.
Kind of, I was a very nervous child, and I also put a lot of pressure on myself at school.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to get into certain schools, so I tried my hardest. And, you know, even though I knew that there was something wrong with my, you know, digestive system, I used to have to wear a purse belt in secondary school, and I would notice that whenever I had a flare up of IBS, my bloating would just be so painful to the point where it would just spit out of my gut would purse belt. And I just like, I never made that connection between my diet
Yeah.
and stress, and, you know,
Because
and
you
what was
wouldn't, I
going on
guess.
in my
You're
gut.
young, right? You just
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
think
I
of
just
that.
didn't really think about it. I just kind of plodded along with things. Um, so yeah, I mean, it started from there, and as I got older, I had bouts of like depression and anxiety, as part of, you know, sort of growing up and trying to, you know, find my way and
Yeah.
what I was going to do for my future, you know, that kind of childhood pressure. Um, but then when I went to uni, I exchanged in the States at University of Pennsylvania. So I got that chance to intern at the Hollywood Reporter in Los Angeles. And when
Wow.
I went there, I realized just how forward thinking they all were when it came to
Really?
health, and that's when I really caught the bug. And I think that's when all this, you know, holistic lifestyle, all these trends coming up, they just sort of got into play. So yeah, I picked up a lot of things from there, and all these superfoods were coming into prominence, and I experimented on myself. I was really interested in all of that,
Yeah.
and I tried some diets, you know, the vegan diet, the raw diet, and a lot of things just weren't working for me. A lot of things were working for me, and I realized that I was getting really excited about, you know, nutrition.
Yeah.
And at that time I was more of like an amateur with nutrition. I was reading all these blogs and stuff, and
Yeah.
but then as the years went on, I realized that I'd quite like to do this, you know, for a living, and sort of take it a bit further, and it became more meaningful to me. So I decided to study it, and throughout that I had, you know, continuous anxiety, um, and I was diagnosed with not polycystic ovary syndrome, but polycystic ovaries, anemia, and, you know, just a couple of other things. I just thought of myself as like a walking catalogue of illnesses.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, nutrition just, it seemed not the answer, but I definitely feel as though discovering it and seeing how simple it could be, and seeing that there are a lot of myths out there when it comes to nutrition,
Yeah.
and now we kind of feel a bit numb to all this nutrition knowledge coming out
Yeah.
there. And, you know, especially with social media, it's very easy to access all this stuff, which I think is brilliant, uh, but at the same time it can be quite overwhelming and very
Definitely.
confusing.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, and I just think it's really rewarding to be able to walk people towards the path that is more tailored to them. and help them find the answers to their own issues.
Completely, that sounds amazing, and I completely get what you're saying about social media and it being all overwhelming, because I think in a way it's good that we have this knowledge now of like superfoods like you were saying earlier, but then at the same time it is a bit, you're completely right, everyone's different, everyone's got different backgrounds, everybody's got a different makeup, so one thing might work for someone but it's not going to work for the other person, and you know, it's just really difficult to work out what's the best option for yourself, I think. And there's so much information out there. I completely agree. I read it all the time. I'm a bit of a sucker. I don't always do it, but I kind of stick to the things I know and I've learned in a professional way from working with a nutritionist myself. But yeah, I think it is just getting the correct information and what works for you.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm not anti-diets. You know, I mean, some diets work for certain people, but it's definitely not going to be one of these things where if someone comes to me, I'll say, oh, you've got that problem, I'll put you on this diet. And
no,
you know, that's worked for many people with that condition. So here you are, this is the protocol and it should be fine. You know, in some cases it is that simple, which is good, but it's never like that 100% of the time. So
yeah. So when you're working with a client, what's the sort of like process? What do you look at when you're working with them? For example, if somebody was coming to you and they were having problems sleeping, and they felt a bit depressed, then how do you kind of analyze and work out their plan?
Well, I guess I'll talk a bit about the structure of like consultations and that sort of thing. So so when they come to me, I like to assess what their main pain points are and what they aim to get out of working with me by the end. And so we kind of draw up a list of goals.
Yeah.
And usually it would be sort of cleaning up their sleep, and obviously improving their mental health. And I would first try to address their sleep. You know, obviously sleep hygiene comes into it, but sometimes it's a bit more complex than that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, sleep and relaxation are probably the foundations that I work with, and then we move on to nutrition, and lifestyle and hobbies, and throughout that I try and make sure that I'm coaching them, you know, so that their mindset is in the right place. And I turn to supplements more towards the end, because I want them to understand the power of food, and the power of lifestyle, and sort of build up that commitment to that, because it has to last when the program ends and I'm not there anymore. So true. Yeah, so just as a lot of people take a lot of pharmaceutical medications, you know, you could also be reliant on supplements. And you know, I can attest to that firsthand. You know, I still have lots of like supplements here. You know, I lose commitment to taking them over time as well, and I don't want to be the kind of person that recommends that people take this daily if they don't truly need it, if they can meet those needs through food, or, you know, for instance, vitamin D exposure, that kind of thing. These simple things can really make a difference. And the reason why I focus so much on sleep is because, you know, it doesn't matter how much good food you have, or how good your supplements are, if you can't incorporate those as, you know, the raw materials to make those hormones, to make those proteins that, you know, form essentially every cell in the body, through sleep, then it won't really make much of a difference. So yeah, I'm a big believer in cleaning up the sleep and then moving on to nutrition and sort of piling on the layers after that.
Amazing. And I think you're right, it does take it is quite a lot of commitment. I think it is like shifting your mindset if you're thinking about sort of going through this change of like, okay, I really want to, like, you know, work on my lifestyle and improve my food and improve what I'm doing. It does take a lot of commitment, I think. And that's, I mean, I don't know, do you think it does? Or like, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My goodness. I mean, like, I know how tough it is, because, you know, it takes a long time as well. So some people would probably do well on just sort of like the one consultation, the one sort of health assessment, but I found the most success comes out of working over time and figuring out what's working and what's not working for them along the way, because it is just a big case of trial and error, and it can be really expensive. You know, I know how frustrating it is when it's really expensive, because you invest a lot of money and experimenting with lots of different foods, and especially when it's, you know, the health industry, it can be really costly. So yeah, I mean, I completely understand where commitment can fall off every so often, but like, it's never a linear process. I mean, I think people, they probably think in the beginning, this is great, I'm really committed, I'm going to go for this, and it's going to be easy because I'm really determined this time, I put money where my mouth is, that kind of thing. But, you know, experience some dips along the way, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter so much, because we're all, you know, they realize that they're learning along the way, and they get encouragement from improving and seeing the difference that just these simple changes are making to their lifestyle. So it's not all bad news.
No, no, definitely not. I think it's it does take time, but I think it's like there's no better feeling when you actually suddenly feel like it's work, like, you know, you're getting somewhere, your work, it's like you have achieved what you wanted to achieve. I think it's really, really satisfying. I don't think there's actually anything that is, you know, if you're trying to conquer something and you're doing it through food or a lifestyle change, and that's really it feels incredible, I think, personally.
And it's the kind of thing that nobody can take away from you. It's like, you know, once you have that knowledge, you have that knowledge forever.
And I actually think as well, once you do have that knowledge, it's very hard to go back, I think. Like for me, I'm quite strict with my diet. So this sounds, I'm sorry, not strict, but I am quite specific about what I eat and what I don't eat. And for some people that might sound really, really fussy, but I don't think it is fussy. I think I'm maybe just a bit more conscious because I've worked with a nutritionist and I've had that kind of exposure and experience with understanding different food groups and how personally for me my body works and how I react to things and what I think makes me feel a certain way or what's beneficial for me. That I think it's it does come across quite fussy, but it's not. It's just that's, you know, to other people they might be like, oh gosh, that sounds so complex, but it's hard to switch back once you have that information, I think. If you know all about it and you know what's working, then it's very hard to go back. So I think it's like an investment, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I think once you work with a nutritionist or somebody, if you're trying to achieve goals for whatever reason, that knowledge will always stay with you because it just gets locked in your brain somewhere.
Yeah, and it becomes easier because, you know, there's less pressure to, you know, constantly Google your cures and your symptoms, because you already know, you've gone through the process of walking through each of the finding out how they interconnect and connecting them with your food and your lifestyle, and you know the causes. So it becomes a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable to actually follow that process. You know, it becomes less of a chore.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, that's true.
Yeah.
And I love
it when that clicks and you know, when they realize, and it's like, oh gosh, why, you know, I wish I knew this sooner. Essentially, it's like I just wish I wish they taught us this in schools, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because a lot of it I find is actually like information which when I was sort of working with this nutritionist, it was like a plan that would be quite obvious, like in a way, like, do you know what I mean? It's not really that complex. It was more just that I'd never really thought of doing that. It's like eating things in a particular time or eating different types of foods together or waiting so it is, and it was all very natural. And so everything we have, which are on these kind of when you're working with a nutritionist, it's like it's all available to us. You don't have to spend loads of money on the different types of like special foods. It's just being more conscious, I think. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's you know, it's never a case of, oh, that's bad for me, I shouldn't have that. But you know, I always like to let people know that you know, they can have the things they enjoy if you know, it's about how much they have of it. You know, I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule. because often if we eliminate things completely from our lives, then it tends to make us want them even more.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah,
Like,
so I mean, I'm not a personal trainer or anything, but I do
no.
know that certain types of exercises that would impact on different disorders. So for instance, if someone is over exercising, especially with high intensity workouts, that tends to not go down well with symptoms of IBS and
Yeah.
even anxiety, actually, because it drives up the cortisol. So it contributes a lot to mood disorders and even aggression and sort of behavioral aspects. But obviously, I love and I'm a big fan of yoga. Back in the day when I had more time, I used to do, like, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. I
Wow,
completely love
that's really
yoga.
good.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I try to recommend yoga, um, and just sort of in general, I love recommending sort of walks out in nature, brisk walks, basically anything that sort of gets your heart rate pumping a little bit more,
Yeah.
and obviously resistance exercises, and weight training, that kind of thing. Those are the sort of things that I like recommending. Like, we know we have a general sense of what's good for us, and it's when we're able to hold ourselves accountable to those things and follow through, and then we get that reward once it's done.
Yeah, and I've been talking to my friends, actually, a couple of them they've been going through some kind of mental health problems, and I was really advising them to talk to a nutritionist, because I really believe that diet and their food they're having can massively improve their moods and how they're feeling, and just shift their mindset. So I'm really encouraging them to do that, but it's hard to kind of sometimes get somebody on board to believe that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, it's that old saying, you can take the camel to the water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Yeah.
It is, and I think that's why I wanted to talk to you as well, is because I think it's so important with your knowledge and your experience, and you obviously with your own experience. It's kind of, it works. So you're literally here talking about it, saying that your diet does work, and I am too. So I think if you can share that information out to the world, then it's a bit, people might understand it more and think, okay, maybe they're right. But
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, I, as an introvert, I mean, I've always been introverted, and I've always found that, I don't know how the diet would play into sort of becoming less of an introvert or becoming a bit more confident, but I think somehow when you have that confidence in knowing what works for you, what doesn't work for you, you are confident in you become confident in other areas of your life. And in the beginning, I was having like relationship issues, but I mean, now my relationships are fantastic, with everyone around me.
yeah.
And to the point where I've just recently become engaged, and
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, thank you. But yeah, it's quite powerful how far those benefits can stretch.
Yeah.
And that's why, I kind of feel evangelical about not just food, but about, attitudes towards food, and sort of changing our relationship towards food, and seeing it more as not just nourishment, but something that, we should really, really appreciate, this opportunity to really enhance our, our mindset, and, the way that we perform, the way that we, interact with others, through something as simple as food, because it's a communal thing as well. It's a lot of things, and I do realize that there are certain aspects about eating better that are harder to access for some people. Like, we would all know that spinach is great for us, and, organic food is great for us, but it's one thing knowing, and it's another thing applying that, because you also have to have the skills to be able to incorporate these different foods, and you have to have, the equipment to be able to incorporate it.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying, and I think you're right. I think once you have that confidence in one area of your life, it does have a knock-on effect, I think, completely. And I think it can really like improve without you maybe making that immediate association.
Exactly.
It actually does. It definitely does. And even having this conversation now, I'm like, right, I need to get back onto my plan. I need to stick. No, it's true. Because I think, you know, like we've all been in lockdown, and I think I've overindulged. Everybody probably has.
Absolutely, you'll have.
Yeah. And you've kind of like, it's been easy to like fall off track, you know, with what you're eating. And I think especially when we couldn't really get food and there was like, you know, we were limited to what the supermarkets were selling. I think now is the time I feel like, right, I need to get back and reset and get back into how, you know, sticking to my plan, because everything feels better. I think emotionally, physically, and you're right, it has an effect on relationships. It can have an effect on your outlook, how you're feeling about your job, your career. I think everything, it has an impact.
Absolutely.
Do you think as well with generations, it's a bit different now? So as older generation, for my auntie, for example, or someone like who's a bit older, I find it really hard to talk to them about nutrition because I just don't get it.
Yeah. It's also one of those other things that if they hear it coming...
Sorry, it's my dog's barking.
If they hear it coming from you, someone that they know and someone that, you know, they know the background of, it's kind of less serious as opposed to when it comes from someone else that they don't know, because, you know, I don't know why that seems to be more effective than coming from
you. So true.
But yeah, I mean, that's what we were saying during my training. A lot of us, my peers would just be saying, gosh, I'm really trying to change so-and-so's attitude, you know, and I wasn't able to get through to them about this particular issue. But then someone else told them about it like years later, and now they're listening to me, turning around to me. Exactly, they're turning around to me saying, "Oh, did you know this?" And
that's
great. It's just such a frustration.
That is the worst. I think when I feel like that happens a lot. I'm not preaching information, but I'm just passing on, I guess, the knowledge that I've learned. And, you know, I'll say, oh, have you thought about doing this? Or have you tried this? This is really good. You know, this might be a nice thing to try. Maybe cut that out and replace it with this. And I feel like people sometimes won't listen. And you're completely right. And then they'll come back and say, oh, I've started doing this. Have you thought about it? And I'm like, what? And I think I don't know what to say. Yeah. I'm like, Sometimes I just go along with it and go, oh, that looks nice. Yeah. I think, oh my God. But yeah, you're completely right. So I do think, yeah, it's quite, it must be because it's coming from, I'm not professional, you know, and what I'm not a professional nutritionist. So I'm giving that information is not correct, maybe. So if you were to come on board and say to this same person and give the advice, they'd probably go, oh yeah, that's great. And listen to you.
Yeah, I mean,
fair enough.
It's probably not just within obviously my industry. I think it happens a lot with, I mean, I've spoken to a couple of psychologist friends who say, you know, the same thing.
Yeah,
it always tends to mean more when it comes from someone else as opposed to someone you know.
So true. Yeah, you're completely right. So you're so you work with clients on a one-to-one basis, is that right? Is that and you always...
At the moment it's one-to-one.
Okay, cool. And at the moment, are you kind of just doing, like, how are your consultations working because of lockdown? Are you just kind of doing it like this or on the phone?
Yeah, absolutely. So mostly online, but also via phone. Because obviously I can't go out and meet them in person. But yeah, no, online is fine, and online seems to be convenient for most people.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of lockdown, they would still prefer to do it online anyway. So yeah, it just seems to be the best way to hold consultations. I'm sort of sticking to one-to-one, and I have 3 different levels of mind balance programs. So first level is 2 consultations, and with each package, actually, I make sure that I do a complete health assessment and obviously write up a plan. But the reason why I need to know up front if they want to sign on for just the first package, which is the silver, or the gold, which is the 4-session one, or the platinum, which is the 8-session one. It's more of a long-term one, but I like knowing what their long-term commitment plans are, because I find that it's a lot more effective to sort of break down the plan into, I would never go beyond more than about 4 different steps for people to make, 4 different types of changes, because it can be so overwhelming to just be faced with one massive plan and say, try this.
I've had that before and I've been like, whoa.
Yeah, like, okay, where do I start? And a lot of the time it would overlap, a lot of advice would sort of overlap and contradict. And I just find that not only the client's ability to stick to the plan, but their commitment to change is a lot better when they have more consultations. And yeah, just making sure that they know what's actually working for them and what's not working for them. And a lot of the time you can waste money on things that you think are working for you but actually aren't.
That's true.
Yeah, so that's how I tend to work, just sort of breaking it down. And
do you go as far as looking at people's like bloods and things like that, or like stools, or not, or is that something you do?
Well, when it comes to bloods, I look at their previous or their most recent blood test results. And if something comes up during the consultation that might indicate a need for further investigation on a particular issue. So, for instance, I like to check, obviously their vitamin D, that comes up quite a lot. A deficiency comes up quite a lot, especially with people who have issues with mental health. Things like B12, obviously their blood lipids, even their thyroid. So I like to know a bit about their thyroid panel. But when it comes to the stool, I don't like examine stools, but I ask questions about, I get, down and dirty with, what does it look like? And, do you see undigested food in there? And is it painful? Any red flags like, blood in the stool, that sort of thing.
Also, do you work with clients who want to just have a gut cleanse?
I mean, I work with clients who have, digestive issues as well as mental health issues. Obviously, the digestive issues would sort of come into play anyway. But as far as cleanses go, it would help some people, and some people think that's what they need, but they don't need to have, such an I think the idea of a cleanse is something that's very like aggressive, it's sort of like slimming teas that sort of get rid of excess water retention, and that kind of thing. And a lot of the time it is necessary to have a sort of gut cleanse, but I think the definition of a gut cleanse for each person can be quite different. Some people would need a more of a stronger multiple step plan to achieve. Of my story of coming to this point in my life where I want to do this is sort of peppered with a lot of poor career experiences as well, and sort of saying, right, this is not what I want. This is not what I want to do the rest of my life. I would rather do something that's a bit more meaningful, and just actually having so many experiences in lots of different industries. I feel like I've built some sort of understanding for a lot of different types of stressors. So people who are in office jobs and smashing it 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, I completely understand that, and I've been there, and that's probably quite and that time in my life is probably quite a high point for stress. That sort of led me to this point. And I've been in other sort of freelance, kind of unreliable sort of roles that, it's kind of an erratic schedule. So I understand where lots of people are coming from and what the potential pitfalls of certain job roles can be. So yeah, I mean, I'm not just one person that thinks, gosh, this is my lifestyle. Why don't you understand that you can go and, you should go out and have a bit of exercise in the park for like an hour in the morning. I mean, obviously, if they can't wake up any time before 6, otherwise they'd only have about 5 hours sleep, then I'm not going to push it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely job roles can be a massive thing.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I think I remember some of my most stressed times were actually just working in a 9 to 5 job, and me just having to like hit a target and work to this like deadline, and just being like, oh my gosh, the pressure is on.
Yeah.
And it was strange actually, because even though I was working in that, I'm not very good at doing that anyway. I've decided I can't, like, as I've got older, I've learned I can't really conform to being in 9 to 5. Like, that just doesn't suit my, I don't actually know ever why I went down a route where I would have to do that, because it just doesn't suit my personality. And that's not from me. I can't get up early, because I do get up early. It's just that whole thing of being in a space for that kind of amount of time. It doesn't suit.
Yeah, it really does something to, you know, to your mindset, and just gets you in a pattern that you don't want to be in.
Yeah, and I used to fight it, and I didn't realise that until probably about 3 years ago, that I was like, this is actually, I know what I'm doing. I really don't like this routine of like this work life, and I'm battling with it because I didn't realise I was battling with it, and it was leading me to have stress. It was causing stress, you know, rushing to work, getting on the tube, which I hated doing. And then,
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, it's like the worst thing ever. And then I would avoid just getting on the tube. And then I was like, I just don't want to go to work because I'm not getting. So
it's that point where the work you bring the work home with you.
Yeah.
That was my breaking point, when I would be so stressed from that office 9 to 5 that I would come home and think about what I still had left to do, and, you know, thinking about performance and that kind of thing, and like to the point where I was crying when I come home, because I just had such a terrible experience going into work and knowing I had to go in again the next day.
Got to go tomorrow.
Yeah, and I just thought, this isn't living. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
I know. I was the same, and sometimes I'd feel really dramatic because I'd be like, "Oh,
yeah."
But it's just because. But some people love it. Like, I have friends.
Yeah, absolutely. People thrive on it.
Yeah, and it's just that. That's when I learn. Obviously everyone's different, but that just doesn't suit me. Like, I'm not. I can't be in that office and sit there. I just can't. I felt like I was going to explode. It was that sort of feeling that was leading to stress.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was the type of office. I mean, I know there are a lot of very sort of interactive and well-being conscious offices. They're coming more into prominence now, so that's looking good for a lot more people.
That is so true. And in all fairness, I have to say that actually I was really lucky. It was actually a really nice office, and I still didn't like it. But yeah, I think people are definitely more conscious of that, and I think that is important. And also I think we're really lucky actually at this, in our sort of day and age, that we can actually have the option to make career choices where we don't have to work in an office. I mean,
certainly very, very privileged in that sense.
Yeah, really privileged, because I think, you know, a lot of people couldn't, like, a lot of our families and things, our older generations, they had no choice. I think the fact that we've got the choice is actually, I'm grateful for that. Amazing. Thanks, Jane. It's been so interesting talking to you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Oh, it's so good. I love talking. Yeah, I was so excited to talk to you because it's so interesting. It's something I'm like personally so interested in as well, that I thought it'd be a really good subject to share with everyone, because when you go through something and you experience the benefits of it, and the benefits of nutrition and diet, and how it can have such an important part and really improve areas of your life, I think you need to share that information and get it out there. So I think with somebody like yourself, working with clients to help them achieve their goals is just amazing, because it does work. Yeah.
And you are a testament to that.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I really am. And I think that's I need to you've also made me feel like I need to just get back on track, which is so good.
I hope it's not in the sort of crack the whip sense. It's like,
no.
I feel a bit like too evangelical about what I do.
No, not at all. I think it's good. I think that's what this is for, right? I think this whole conversation is meant to be about inspiring people or giving people the motivation to make maybe a lifestyle change. And the fact that we've had this conversation now, and like I said, I'm somebody who is really conscious of nutrition and conscious of lifestyle and all of that, and I still tend to kind of slip down, and be like, oh, I've kind of just gone off it a bit. So the fact that I can have a conversation with you and think, no, I need to get back on track, is like, that's what this is for. It's to help people do that. So yeah.
Oh,
well, thank you so much. It was lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. Yeah, really good to talk to you.
I will share your details below. And anyone can get in touch with you. And I guess it's just anybody who's going through any sort of mental health or well-being or issues or anything like sleep deprivation, and they want to make a lifestyle change or a diet change, and then they're kind of the right people to get in touch with you. So yeah. All right. Thanks, Jane. Okay. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.